Glad you are here. I'm Fred Fishkin, back with another Techstination interview. There's some news brewing at the upcoming Consumer Electronics Show. Joining us is the BEERMKR co-founder and CEO Aaron Wells, and it's spelled BEERMKR.
Right.
Thanks for joining us, Aaron.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, give us a little background about the company before we talk about your new product that's brewing.
Sure. So we've been around for 8 years or so. We're originally a team of grad students from Cornell University, ended up making some brewing equipment and selling it to craft beer brewers and hobbyist brewers. Developed some interesting solid state technology that allowed people to ferment really high quality beer without refrigerators, because temperature control is critical for yeast to function properly and generate commercial grade beer. So we were producing a device that allowed low volume craft brewers to use this for the pilot system and for hobbyist brewers, and that was called the Brew Jacket Immersion. And then after a number of years in talking with a lot of people, we realized that the core of the problem that people have with making beer is not necessarily one piece of the process, but that the process itself is very hard to, wrap your head around as a new person who just loves beer. And it's risky, i.e. it can, one small mistake can yield an undrinkable batch of beer. There's tons of equipment and there are lots of steps involved in it. So it's very, very difficult for a newcomer to come in and successfully make beer. So we saw this as an opportunity to take the technology we developed with our first set of products and apply them to a countertop beer brewer that will produce commercial grade results without any brewing knowledge by the consumer.
How long does it take?
So the brewing process takes about 7 to 10 days, depending on your recipe. You put your grains and water into the machine, you hit brew, it goes through a traditional mash cycle, gets up to pasteurization temperatures, then cools everything down, sends you notification when it's time to pitch yeast, and then you come back, you throw yeast in, you throw in hops, and then you get to watch the whole process happen on the app. We built in a lot of sensors into the system so it knows how much CO2 is being produced by the yeast. It will show you exactly what stage the fermentation's in. It'll manage the temperature by the fermentation. So it's essentially what you would do if you were a craft beer brewer, only our system does it for you automatically and the server monitors it because we're using, IoT tech and all of these new sensors that have only recently become available, like within the past 5 or 10 years.
And how big is the batch? How much you're brewing at a time?
Get a 12-pack of beer at a time.
12 packs, so that gets you through the weekend.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
I need to ask you, I mean, the background at Cornell that you and your colleagues had, what were you studying?
So
or were you?
No, lots for sure. If anything about Cornell is they really put you through the ringer academically. I was studying business. I was in the business school there, and my two co-founders were in the engineering school. So they were biomedical engineering. Matt, who you saw walk in, is sitting right there. He's PhD in biomedical engineering. Evgeny was doing postgraduate lab work there. The two of them were friends. We got together on the first project because we met in a business plan class and decided we worked really well together and we kept at it.
Biomedical engineering. You're not making any COVID claims for your BEERMKR.
No. Although it will help you drink a lot of really delicious beer without leaving your house.
Well, tell us, show us where you are. Now, you are in the manufacturing facility that you have?
Yeah. So we have a small production plant in Boulder, Colorado. This is our brewing lab. You can see it here. We have a number of machines that are set up that are producing recipes. So for example, I am brewing our chubby stout in this one. And we have, it's kind of dark because it's a stout, but it's finishing up the cooling process right now. And we'll be able to put some yeast in it in the next couple of hours, yeast and hops. And this one actually is an oak age, so there are a lot of oak cubes in there. And then we actually are brewing some Baltic porters over here, which is pretty nice. So this one is in the process of cooling down as well. This one's a few hours ahead. So yeah, you can feel it's nice and cold. So it'll be ready to go pretty soon. And then outside, we have our production facility where we have people working on various pieces of the machine. And we have ingredient production over here. We have bagging machines to produce all of our packaged ingredient kits. And we have storage as well between this facility and a number of other warehouses throughout the United States.
So to use the BEERMKR, which is just coming to market soon?
That's right. So we just shipped our first set of units last month, which is very exciting. This was a Kickstarter product from a couple of years ago. We just wrapped up. COVID really threw a wrench in our logistics and production abilities, which is why we're doing a lot of this here instead of our traditional facility overseas. So we actually brought them in because we wouldn't be able to get over there and wouldn't be able to really finish the QA and the necessary pieces to get going. And we've made the last bit of our production here in Boulder, Colorado. So yeah, so it's been a long time coming, but we've shipped a few thousand units out to our early Kickstarter backers and a lot of people who purchased for the holidays. And we're really excited to see people drinking a lot of beer and absolutely loving it.
Well, congratulations on getting it out the door finally. I know it's a huge step. So tell us how this works from the economic standpoint. What is the cost for the BEERMKR? And then do you have to buy kits, or can people do it on their own, or what?
It's a great question. So you can buy kits. We produce a number of beers of recipes that are fully formulated and dialed by us. We also are in the process of working with a number of breweries to bring special releases to the BEERMKR. So you can, so your favorite brewery can release a version of a recipe or a special formulation for the BEERMKR that the user can then tweak the amounts of if they'd like, or just see what their favorite brewer happens to be thinking about when they formulate recipes. And what's nice about it is, while we do produce kits, the kits themselves are completely open. So if you see, this is the basket where all of the ingredients get thrown into. There's nothing proprietary about it. You just throw your ingredients into the top. It's essentially just milled barley in various combinations. Same deal with hops. You can use whichever hops you'd like and put them in, and it's totally up to you. So our stout recipe, for example, we have a lot of really nice dark grains in it, but people really like to customize it and add other things, like that you can put in whiskey soaked oak chips, for example, and then you have essentially a bourbon barrel aged stout. Or you can put coffee in, and then it's now a coffee stout, or coconut, or cacao nibs, and you can completely alter the route of a beer, and you can brew it a number of times with different iterations and see which one you prefer and which method that really made sense for that style in your palate.
Who's your typical customer?
So we have two, which is interesting because we had a group of people who knew our products from the craft beer brewing and home brewing space, and they were very interested in BEERMKR simply because it lets them brew more beer quickly. The traditional brew takes anywhere between 4 to 12 hours to execute, depending on mash and boil schedules and cooling schedules, and then a lot of cleaning, a lot of waiting. It's an incredibly manual process, and people have been doing this for a long time, and they produce fantastic results. But unfortunately, as we as humans change our routines, we have busy lives with jobs and families and travel, well, not right now travel, but you lose the time and the ability to really pursue your hobby or your passion. And that's where BEERMKR comes in for that particular group of enthusiast brewer. It gives them the ability to set up a brew and rapidly iterate on recipes in 5 minutes of setup. And then they can take their app with them wherever they go on their phone and monitor what's happening in their brew, no matter where they are. And then we have another set of people who are simply beer lovers, and they've always wanted to get into beer brewing, but they've had holdups for various reasons. Either it was too much equipment, or they tried it once and the results were terrible, or it's really confusing, or it's too much work, and they just want to explore new ingredients and take that first step into making beer, but they don't want to get completely overwhelmed by this 4 to 12 hour process where any mistake can yield undrinkable beer. So we've seen a lot of really great feedback from both groups. And the more experienced brewers who are using the system, in particular on our community groups, are helping the new brewers get into it, and they're answering questions about how do you combine various ingredients together, or what about this particular yeast strain? What should I do if I'm trying to make this, apricot hazy IPA? They'll give them advice. So it's a really awesome mix to see the two groups coming together.
I guess they're putting their heads together, so to speak.
Exactly, yeah.
So tell us how I was getting at this before a little bit, how the economics work out. Okay, you buy the machine. That's what, about $600 now?
It's about $600. Yeah, we're at $579 for the machine, and then our kits are about $15 each, so a little more than $1 a beer. So it's cheaper than you can buy beer at the store, but the machine itself is a little more expensive. So you do have to want to make beer in order to get into this. And then if you make enough beer, the machine will gradually, pay for itself. But really, we're not trying to undercut buying beer at the store. We're trying to give you a new experience of making beer on your own, and adding different flavor profiles to it, and expanding the love of making beer.
So this whole experience for you, how would you characterize it? What's it been like?
So the development process was incredible. We got to really dive deeply into the science of beer and consult with a lot of incredibly smart people to do it. Researching professors in universities across the U.S. and in other places, been able to just ask questions, and people are very interested in the things that we're doing. So BEERMKR makes some changes to the brewing process because it doesn't use pumps and it doesn't use boiling temperatures, which are two things that normal breweries use to achieve a beer. But so we've changed the process slightly, but are ultimately ending up in the same place from a chemical and biological perspective that actually is the beer. And that was the real challenge, is to how do we make a countertop brewing device that is simple, easy to use, and gets you to commercial grade beer. And there have been other countertop beer brewers, but they've largely tried to emulate step by step the commercial brewing process. And because of that, their costs have been astronomical. We're talking multiple thousands of dollars, like $3,000, $5,000 for these systems. So we are at about 1/10 of that cost, and so we can get to a far larger variety of people, instead of the people who really know that they want to drop $5,000 on a brewing machine. We can get to people who are just interested in dipping their toe in the water to see if this is something that they really are interested in.
So the key advantage you have over the competition out there is both the technology and the ease of use, or?
Yes, I would absolutely say so. Nobody's tried to create what we've created. Part of the process, as well, as you've seen, is and I can show you again, inside the machine, all of the brewing actually happens in this bag. And the bag is a big piece of the process, because when we're done, the bag is removed, and there's no exposure to oxygen or germs, and then we place the bag into one of our beer taps. And these beer taps, they hold the pressure. So they are like the tire of your bicycle, whereas the bag is like the inner tube. So you can pressurize it, and now you're not exposing the beer to oxygen or germs, and it's reducing yet another step that beginning brewers often fail, is you're splashing oxygen around, and it just simply ruins the beer.
Is that a separate product, or that's a part of the whole
It's
system?
part of it. It's included.
That's
So
it.
when, yeah.
So for more information, where can people go?
BEERMKR.com, BEERMKR.com, and you can see a video of the whole process. We have an incredible YouTube page where you can see step by step us going through every brew, and also the BEERMKR app, which is available on the iOS as well as Android app stores. And you can see all of the videos involved in all of the processes as well.
Again, it's BEERMKR. Aaron Wells, thank you for taking the time with us.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.